everyone, and welcome to She Plays the podcast. I'm super excited to be joined today by Ben Sutton, who is founder and chairman of Teall Capital, fellow Demon Deacon. I'm so happy to have you on the pod today, Ben.
Great to be with you, Ashley, and be with my fellow Demon Deacon.
That's right. There we go. If you can't see us, if you're just audio, you're missing out. We got the Wake Forest backgrounds, the jerseys. We've got it all. We're proud to be Demon Deacons. But
Exactly right.
I'd love for you to tell our listeners just briefly, kind of your professional career in, a couple minutes, but just who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, I was a double deacon from Wake Forest, went to undergrad in law school, worked in the athletic department for probably 8 or 9 years. And then in 1992, started my first company, ISP Sports. That was really kind of the forerunner and first company to really kind of created an industry in college sports called managing multimedia rights. So bundling radio and television and publications and out of home and digital media all together and taking it to market and selling it together. Before that, all those things had kind of been split up. We had a nice 18-year run from 92 to 2010, and 2010 merged our company into IMG. Teddy Forsman at that point, Forsman Little owned IMG, and we rolled our college business into IMG, and it became really the largest and certainly the fastest growing part of the IMG worldwide enterprise. We were there for about 4 years, and Teddy unfortunately passed away during that time, and so we put that company on the market and sold it in 2014 to Silver Lake Capital for $2.4 billion. And again, as I said, the largest part of it was really our college enterprise and business. So it was a lot of fun kind of doing that. I stayed on as chairman and chairman emeritus for probably 2.5 years out of that. But in, I think, 2016 left and took some time, as I was just sharing with you before we went on the air, have become a bi-coastal person, have homes in North Carolina and California, so I'm there now. I just finished playing in a First Tee Champions PGA Tour event, actually. And spent a lot of time out here kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. Was able to persuade 3 or 4 of my C-suite mates and partners at IMG and ISP to come into Teall Capital. We're in the middle of raising our second, I guess it's not really a fund, we're raising a special purpose vehicle now on top of our first fund. Didn't have to raise a whole lot of money between the two funds, about $110 million. And because we were able to assemble a lot of really great talent with whom I've worked before that are great entrepreneurs. And so most of our growth is organic. We're very atypical in terms of private equity. And what we have is a whole team of subject matter experts as it relates to entrepreneurship and sports and entertainment. So probably 80 to 90% of our growth is really organic and in nature rather than acquisitive. And so we're really able to use the funds to basically expand our reach, breadth, and depth without going out and buying 50 different companies and just kind of following the standard Harvard MBA model for private equity. Not there's anything wrong with it, but our model is just very different. And we've had great success. We are in the process now of probably going to move a couple of our companies over the next several months, and we're acquiring 3 or 4 others. We've got a couple of big announcements coming out probably in October, November timeframe, and excited about that and where we might take the reach of our business to. So, already have 2 very nationally known market leading brands in the portfolio, and I think when we started our fund, we had something like, in the companies we acquired, I think we had maybe 50 or 70 employees or something. And we've reached a peak already of something like 350 or 400, and revenues are probably in the range of 8 to 10x what we acquired. So we feel really positive and bullish, even in the pandemic. As I told you before we came on, we're in a place where we can kind of hibernate our businesses. We have long-term relationships with NFL teams and Major League Baseball teams and NCAA, college and universities. And so we were prepared to weather a storm. Now, I did not accurately predict that there would be a pandemic like Nostradamus, but we did believe that there would be some recessive activity sometime after the election. And the pandemic accelerated that. But we were very well prepared for that, and have really kind of used this 6 months to great advantage. As I said, made lemonades out of lemon.
Yeah.
Lemons. So anyway, it's been good.
Yeah, no, and it's so awesome to hear you chat, because already there are like 3 different ways we could go, like that you love college sports, you still play and are active playing sports yourself, and this like business side to sports. I mean, it's just such a cool triangle of ways that you're involved. I'm curious, so you play golf still now, but like what have you played, as a kid, or what sports do you love like to play?
So, growing up, I was a baseball and soccer player. And you would have to go down the path where I have the most weak links actually first, wouldn't you? So I am not a great golfer, but I love to play. I have a lot of friends that are, that play particularly on the senior tour, the Champions Tour, as it's known now. And we had a big event out here this week, the First Tee, which raises nearly $1 million for the National First Tee, of which I sit on the board. And so it's great to be out here hanging out with my buddies like Billy Andrade and Jay Haas, former Deeks, and Joe Durant, Gene Sars, and Scott McCarron. And I literally have probably 25 wonderful close personal friends that play on that tour. Quite a number on the what I call the JV tour. I'm sure the PGA guys would love that. Working their way up to champions. But it's just a lot of fun to be out here and be in other places. I play in, probably 10 or 12 pro-ams at PGA events, Champions Tour events, and, and charity fundraising events during the year. And I kind of do that, Ashley, because I'm very competitive by nature. I think it served me well in business. And I think when you play in competitive tournament formats, it's just, for me, it's a lot more fun than just going out with friends and playing golf on a Wednesday afternoon or Saturday afternoon or something like that. That sounded like a banker, right? Good play on Wednesday afternoon, Saturday afternoons. And so, it's just really fun to kind of gird your competitive instincts. I find that I generally play better, and I like playing with people who are frankly a lot better than me, and kind of see what I could aspire to. So from that perspective, is that's people ask me all the time, why do you do it? I said, well, the money goes to good causes, and that's all well and good, but it's just really fun to play. At 62 years old, to be able to go out and say, I can still go compete and play in a week-long event. I've got the AT&T coming up in February. I play with my great friend Harold Varner III, young African-American fellow from Gastonia, went to East Carolina, talks just like me, sounds like he has marbles in his mouth. I always say we were like brothers from different mothers, but and I just, I love him, and we play together multiple times a year. He's getting married this weekend, so if this comes out before that, happy wedding to Amanda and Harold. And so, just having those kinds of events and playing them is great. I've got another one in a month. I have my young friend Whit Merrifield, who's a Major League Baseball All-Star for the Kansas City Royals. and he comes out every year and plays with me in the TaylorMade.
Okay.
So these events, they kind of keeps you, I don't know, it kind of keeps you sharp and on edge that way. And then, because I think the competitive instinct is enormously important in business. I have always treated growing businesses, founding them, creating them, developing the plans for them, hiring the right kind of warrior leaders to execute on your plan. All of that is so important if you want to win. And I've told folks this for I've been in this business now for 37 years, that if you don't wake up every day and think about winning, you probably don't want to come work in one of my companies. And because, it's not a win at all cost thing, but we do want to be the market maker and the market leader in everything that we do. And we wake up every day with a belief that that's what we can do. And frankly, that's what we should do. And so I think that's why we've had this nice 30-year run of kind of wild success, is I've been able to have great people around me that buy into that and believe it as much or more than I do. And, kind of work daily to hone that competitive instinct. And so it's funny, because a lot of times, I've had great success hiring former student athletes as an example.
Okay.
And they come with a particular set of skills that most college students don't have. They already understand the value of teamwork. They understand the value of time. They have to manage their time so much better than most students that matriculate to a college campus. Right. There's so many demands on their time. And so they get, when you start talking about building a great locker room and esprit de corps and culture, and that being a foundation of any opportunity you might have for winning, they already get all that. It's ingrained in them from their experience as student athletes. And so we have quite a number in our organization, and they've always been, frankly, wildly successful in what we do.
I love that. And I think you're so right. I think it is such a crucial element of entrepreneurship itself, especially as a founder. The building out the team is so crucial. And when you are able to, have that kind of open communication and find people that have strengths that are different than you, because as a team, you're going to grow. Right. I think some of that is just embedded in people who've played sports.
Right. I've been, when you're working around someone like me who spends all their time trying to, make thunder and lightning come out of the sky, somebody has to come along and actually do a lot of the work that fills in the gaps, and so I've always really tried to focus and understand, a particular focus of mine is really to try to be as self-aware as I can and as situationally aware as I can. I have this view that the most dangerous person on earth is the man who doesn't know what he doesn't know. And so, unfortunately, in my professional experience, I know far more people like that than people who don't. And so I think really understanding what lane you should be in and what lane you should play in is a very important part of being successful in business. And so they used to laugh at me at ISP and IMG because, if I walked over on the side of the building where all the finance people were and the lawyers, and spoken as a law school graduate, by the way, and the IT people and the HR people and the radio and television production people were, you could see the hair on people's necks begin to stand up because they're like, why is he over here? But if I walked around the sales part of the shop, they were like, oh, here comes Coach. He's coming over here to give us a little coaching and kind of help us out because this is what he does. Right. We're in the business development part of our work. And that's really still the case. I've always understood kind of staying in my lane. I was fortunate, for instance, at ISP and IMG to have an incredible incredibly talented former public company CFO, Joe Weatherly, who went with me to IMG and came with me to Teall Capital. And he recently retired, but he's still a partner in our firm. And, I mean, that was his lane. And he didn't come over and start telling the sales leader what he should be doing. And sales leader didn't go over to his side and say, what is this gap accounting stuff? And why are you treating stuff this way?
Yeah.
And I just think that's a great fundamental of leadership, is just knowing your lane, getting in that lane, and then surrounding yourself with people who can play in the other lanes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because there's too much to do for one person. It's just too much.
Multitasking is way overrated.
Yeah.
And it's especially overrated now because we've raised, because of all the, these devices, if you can see that, I mean, they were my kids. There's enough kind of ADD, ADHD in the stream of consciousness in the world already, and now we've environmentally programmed people to even be more so. So even if they didn't have it anyway, they almost develop it because they have so much access to, ready access to information. Everything's at their fingertips. Getting kind of away from the phone and away from the stuff that the lanes you shouldn't play in, and getting some real focus on what it is that you do well, which, by the way, I said to my children for years and years and thousands of employees, if few things in life inspire passion, and we should pursue only those. I mean, a life is not a life if we're not pursuing joy, right?
I agree. Yeah.
If we don't have a joyful life, we don't have a life. And those are just the plain hard facts. And so find what you want to do and do that, and do it really, really well. And don't try to be a subject matter expert in areas in which you have either no experience, no abilities, or most importantly, no interest. And I talk to a lot of young people about that. I'm on probably a dozen campuses a year, lecturing, most often business classes, but not always business classes. I love going on campuses though, and talking to young folks about, how they might get better, faster, and add more velocity and a higher trajectory to their career. And one of the most important tidbits of advice I can give them in hindsight, after 37 years in a professional career, and frankly, having worked since I was 8 years old, is to really have uber focus, be laser focused on what makes you happy, what fills your heart. When people ask me in interviews, if one of the first questions they ask me is, how much am I going to make? Or, what's my stock option plan? I know that we already have off the bat, I know I have the wrong kind of candidate.
Yeah.
I recently hired a new CEO for Die Hard Fan Supply, which has rapidly become, it's the fastest growing merchandising e-commerce company, probably not just in America, but in the world. And Scott Killian came over, and he's doing a great job for us. And I just remember when we were in all of our visits, which were multiple, we never even talked about that stuff. We talked about what made him tick, what makes me tick, where our chemical balance or imbalance might be, and what we were trying to build. And I don't think in the first 4 conversations we ever had a conversation about compensation, stock options, or anything else. He talked about what he wanted to accomplish in the rest of his professional life. And I talked about what I wanted to accomplish with this company, to see if they were parallel and could be meshed together. And then I knew he was my guy. And at that point, then we kind of sat down and worked out the details on the stuff. And I love to tell that story because, he already had a nice career. And so you're somebody's moving from one place to another place. it's, that's a hard thing to do. And so it just was, I don't know, it's very refreshing when you meet leaders like that. And I feel like the leaders of all of our companies share that view. And so when they go in, they're thinking chemistry and culture and work ethic and integrity first. And they're thinking about everything else that most people think about first, last. And that's really the way it ought to be. You want people that are just dying to be there. We're in a little energy beverage company. There are only 15 or 16 employees in that company. Now, when we bought it, there wasn't even one. There was a half-time CEO. But the young lady that runs that company for me, Lizzie Ward, also a Wake Forest Demon Deacon, probably about your vintage, from Wake Forest, class of 2009. And she is just a brilliant leader. She's worked with me since she was 19 years old at ISP, and I still had ISP. And she ran my research and development department up in New York City at IMG. She went back and got an MBA, worked her way through MBA school at Emory at Goizueta while she was working at Coca-Cola full-time. So really an industrious, entrepreneurial person. And as you are probably aware, I am a huge champion of women in the marketplace, and particularly sports marketplace. 40% of my C-suite were women at IMG and ISP, but I was so tickled to be able to give her this job. And when I go into her office, where about 2/3 of those people work, the rest of them are in field offices around the Southeast and East Coast. It reminds me of the first 2 or 3 years of the ISP days. It's like everybody's there for each other. Everybody's into each other's families. They fomented these incredible friendships and relationships. They're passionate about the product, Sunshine Energy Beverage, fastest growing in the functional energy beverage sector in the country. And I just love seeing that culture being built, because when you see that, then you know you're going to win. And so Dave Clausen and I talk a lot, the head football coach at Wake Forest, for those who on the call who may not know, who's presided over the winningest program in the ACC the last 5 years other than Clemson, but doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And, we talk about, winning the locker room. And he has a 20+ year career as a head coach. He's one of the youngest head coaches in the history of college football when he got his first job. And he knows that's the key. If you have winning attitude in the locker room, and the kids are all there, and those young men are there for each other, then you're going to win. I see it with so many different coaches, but just on our own campus, Bobby Moose and soccer, just what he's done there. We were already always a top 4 team. Now we're perennially the number 1 team in America. Yeah. I mean, we've been number 1 in the polls, I think, every year since he's been here. And so, and you see his kids together, and there is no surprise. There is no surprise whatsoever. They just love on each other. They're there for each other. And they're all, and frankly, they're all about winning. Yeah. They want to win in the worst kind of way. And so when one's down, and this guy just broke up with his girlfriend 2 days ago, and he's kind of down, this other kid knows that he's picking him up, because they're going through real life stuff in college.
I love that. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time. We could probably talk for hours about just all different facets of the sports industry and what we love. And so just thank you again for joining me today.
It's my privilege. Thanks, Ashley. Go Deeks.
Go Deeks.